The city lights flickered outside the floor to ceiling windows of our penthouse apartment, casting a cold glow over the sleek modern decor. I stood there, phone clutched in my trembling hand, as the weight of Lucas's words pressed down on me like a physical force. Pack your things and leave. His voice echoed in my mind, each syllable a stab of betrayal. I had always prided myself on being a strong, independent woman. As a corporate lawyer, I had built a career on my ability to remain calm and composed under pressure. But this was a storm I hadn't seen coming. Lucas and I had been together for a decade, weathering the ups and downs of life side by side, or so I thought. The first cracks in our seemingly perfect facade had appeared months ago. Late night work calls, business trips that stretched longer than necessary, and a growing distance between us that I couldn't quite put my finger on. I had brushed it off as stress, convincing myself that it was just a phase, a rough patch that we would overcome together. But the gnawing suspicion in the back of my mind refused to be silenced. Tonight, that suspicion had morphed into a harsh reality. Lucas's words, cold and unyielding, had shattered the fragile illusion of our marriage. I was left standing amidst the ruins, struggling to make sense of it all. I sank onto the plush couch, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. How had we gotten here? How had I become so disposable to the man I had devoted my life to? The answers, I realized, had been staring me in the face all along. I just hadn't wanted to see them. The late nights at the office, the business trips that seemed to multiply with each passing month, the distant look in his eyes whenever I spoke, they were all pieces of a puzzle that I had been too afraid to put together. But tonight, I was done living in denial. I needed answers, and I was determined to find them. I made my way to our home office, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was a testament to Lucas's success, filled with awards and accolades that spoke of his ambition and drive. But tonight, I wasn't interested in his achievements. I was after the truth. His old laptop sat on the desk, gathering dust. He had discarded it years ago when he upgraded to a newer model, never thinking I'd turn it on again. But desperation has a way of making us do things we never thought we would. I powered it on, my fingers hovering over the keyboard as the screen flickered to life. The browser was already open, logged into a social media account that I didn't recognize. My heart slammed against my ribs as I clicked on the messages tab, my fingers numb and clumsy. I knew, even before I saw her face, that whatever I found would change my life forever. And there she was. Sophia, stunning in a way that made my stomach twist, young, effortlessly beautiful, with a smile that seemed to mock me from the screen. Their conversation stretched back months, filled with intimate confessions, laughter, and inside jokes. There were pictures too, the two of them together in places Lucas had claimed were strictly business. A hotel room, a fancy restaurant, a vacation spot I had begged him to take me to for years. Each word, each image was a knife in my chest. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air, unable to escape the suffocating weight of his betrayal. But as the minutes ticked by, something inside me shifted. The sadness began to burn away, replaced by a white, hot fury that demanded action. I dialed Lucas's number, my hands shaking with a mix of anger and determination. He answered after a few rings, his voice casual as if nothing was amiss. Hey, Emily, what's up? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation. Are you cheating on me, Lucas? Silence hung heavy on the line before he chuckled, a sound that grated on my nerves. What kind of question is that, Emily? I have proof, Lucas. Stop lying. My voice was sharp, unyielding. I wasn't going to let him weasel his way out of this. Not this time. He sighed, the facade crumbling. Fine, yes, I'm seeing someone else. It's better this way. Emily, you deserve someone who can make you happy. His words were meant to placate, to make me feel like this was somehow for my own good, but I wasn't falling for it. Not anymore. You're right, Lucas. I do deserve better, and I'll make sure you regret every moment of this. With that, I hung up the phone, my resolve stronger than ever. I wasn't going to be the woman he discarded like an old toy. I was going to be the storm that tore his perfect little life apart. As I stood there, surrounded by the remnants of our shattered marriage, I made a decision. I was going to fight back. I was going to take control of my life and reclaim my power. And Lucas was going to regret the day he ever underestimated me. The days that followed Lucas's revelation were a blur of sleepless nights and endless questions. But amidst the chaos, a spark of determination ignited within me. I wasn't going to let him destroy me without a fight. I had spent a decade building a life with this man, and I wasn't about to let him tear it down without consequences. My first stop was Mia's office. Mia had been my best friend since college, a tech entrepreneur with a sharp mind and an even sharper tongue. She had always been my sounding board, my voice of reason, and today I needed her more than ever. Emily, what's going on? Mia asked as I walked into her office, her eyes filled with concern. I must have looked like a wreck, but I didn't care. I needed her advice and I needed it now. Lucas is cheating on me, I said, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. He wants me to leave. Mia's expression darkened, her eyes flashing with anger. That bastard. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I'm going to fight back. I need a lawyer, Mia, someone who can help me take him down. A slow smile spread across Mia's face. I know just the person. Alex Harper. He's the best divorce lawyer in the city. Ruthless, strategic, and exactly what you need. I nodded, grateful for her support, set up a meeting. I want to see him as soon as possible. 2 days later, I found myself sitting in Alex Harper's office, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with legal tomes. Alex was everything Mia had promised, sharp, confident, and with a reputation that preceded him. Emily, I'm sorry to hear about your situation, Alex said, his voice steady and reassuring. But I assure you, we're going to make this right. I handed him a copy of our prenuptial agreement, the document that Lucas had insisted on signing before our marriage. I need you to look at this. There's a clause in there that I think might help us. Alex scanned the document, his eyes narrowing as he reached the section 1 had highlighted. In the event of infidelity, the betrayed spouse shall be entitled to 50% of all shared marital assets, he read aloud, a satisfied smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Emily, this changes everything. With this clause, we can go after half of Lucas's business, his properties, everything. A wave of relief washed over me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I had the upper hand. What do we do next? Alex leaned back in his chair, his eyes gleaming with determination. We prepare for battle. I'll need access to all your financial records, any correspondence between you and Lucas, and any evidence of his infidelity. We'll build an airtight case and make sure he regrets the day he ever thought about betraying you. I nodded, ready for the fight ahead. Let's do this. The first step in our strategy was to meet with James Lucas's lawyer. I had never met him before, but the moment I saw him dressed in an overpriced suit, holding his coffee with that arrogant air, I knew exactly what kind of man he was. A shark. But I was a predator too, and today I was going to remind him exactly who he was dealing with. I slid into the seat across from him, cutting off whatever scripted introduction he had planned. Let's get straight to the point, shall we, James? I'm not here to negotiate a clean break. I'm here to take what's rightfully mine. James arched an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by my directness. I assume you're here to discuss the terms of your divorce? A clean break would be the easiest option for both parties. I smiled, knowing that I had him exactly where I wanted him. Oh, James, Lucas really didn't tell you anything, did he? He frowned slightly, his confidence wavering. Tell me what? I reached into my bag and placed the prenuptial agreement on the table. Why don't you take a look at section 5? I suggested, leaning back as I watched him scan the document. I knew the moment he found it, his eyes widened, his posture stiffening. This he stopped, looking at me sharply. Lucas didn't mention this clause. Of course, he didn't, because he thought I was too weak to use it against him. But I wasn't weak. I was a force to be reckoned with, and I was just getting started. It's very simple, James, I said smoothly. Lucas cheated. I have proof, which means I'm entitled to 50% of his business. His entire business, James, not just our shared home, not just the investments, everything. James said nothing for a long moment, visibly thrown off his game. Then he did something that almost made me laugh. He reached for his coffee and took a slow sip, like he needed caffeine to process the disaster his client had just walked into. Finally, he sighed. I'm going to need to have a conversation with my client. This could get complicated. I stood looking down at him with a satisfied smile. You do that, James. Let him know that I expect his full cooperation. Otherwise, this is going to be the ugliest divorce settlement in history. As I left the cafe, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. I had landed my first punch, and Lucas was about to bleed. But this was just the beginning. I was ready for the battle ahead, and I wasn't going to back down until I had taken everything he thought he could take from me. The days turned into weeks as I prepared for the battle ahead. Lucas had underestimated me, thinking I would crumble under the weight of his betrayal. But he was wrong. I was stronger than he ever imagined. and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. My new apartment became a sanctuary, a place where I could strategize and plan my next moves. It was modern and sleek, a reflection of the new life I was building for myself. Gone were the memories of whispered lies and broken promises. This was my space filled with determination and the promise of a brighter future. Meanwhile, Lucas's life began to unravel. His once thriving business empire started to show cracks, and his reputation in the industry took a hit. News of our divorce spread like wildfire, and suddenly, Lucas wasn't the untouchable entrepreneur everyone thought he was. Investors pulled out, deals fell through, and his company struggled to stay afloat. I watched from the sidelines, a silent observer to his downfall. But I wasn't just a spectator, I was the architect of his demise. With Alex by my side, we meticulously planned each move, ensuring that Lucas felt the full weight of his actions. One evening, as I sat in my apartment, sipping a glass of wine and going over the latest legal documents, there was a knock at my door. I knew it was him before I even opened it. Lucas stood there, his usually pristine appearance disheveled, a shadow of the man he once was. "Emily, can we talk?" His voice was measured, but I could see the desperation in his eyes. I crossed my arms over my chest, my expression unyielding. "I thought we were only communicating through lawyers, Lucas." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, about that. I haven't exactly been able to secure representation." I raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. "Oh, you mean no one wants to take your case?" His jaw tightened, but he forced a smile. "Emily, come on. We can handle this without dragging it through the courts. It's better for both of us." I let out a short laugh. "Better for you, you mean. You want to avoid the public humiliation of having your dirty laundry aired out in court. But guess what, Lucas? I don't care about your comfort anymore. You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on me." He looked at me, his eyes flashing with a mix of anger and desperation. "Emily, please. I made a mistake. Can't we just move past this?" I shook my head, my voice steady and resolute. "No, Lucas, we can't. You made your bed, and now you have to lie in it. I'm not going to make this easy for you. You wanted a fight, and now you're going to get one." With that, I closed the door, leaving him standing there, alone and defeated. It was a small victory, but it was just the beginning. I was determined to see this through to the end, no matter what it took. As the days turned into weeks, Lucas's life continued to spiral out of control. His mistress, Sophia, left him without a word, disappearing from his life as quickly as she had entered it. She had been in it for the lifestyle, the lavish trips, and the social clout that came with dating a powerful man. But once Lucas's empire began to crumble, she saw no reason to stick around. The final blow came when Lucas was forced to sell the house he had once kicked me out of, the symbol of his success and arrogance. It was a bitter pill for him to swallow, but it was a necessary one. He needed the liquidity to keep his business afloat, even if it meant letting go of the one thing he had always prided himself on. I watched from afar as the for sale sign went up, feeling a sense of satisfaction wash over me. This was the man who had once thought he was untouchable, who had believed that money and status could smooth over any mistake. But now he was learning the hard way that actions have consequences, and I was the one delivering the lesson. As I stood in my apartment, looking out at the city skyline, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. I had come a long way from the woman who had once been blindsided by her husband's betrayal. I was stronger now, more resilient, and determined to reclaim my power. And as Lucas's world crumbled around him, I knew that I was just getting started. The battle was far from over, but I was ready for whatever came my way. The day of the final court hearing arrived, and I found myself standing in the grand courtroom, the air thick with anticipation. The room was filled with a quiet hum of whispers and a rustling of papers as lawyers and spectators awaited the judge's entrance. I stood tall, my heart pounding with a mix of nerves and determination. Beside me, Alex offered a reassuring nod, his presence a steady anchor to this tumultuous journey. Across the aisle, Lucas sat with his new lawyer, a man who looked barely out of law school. Gone were the days of James, the sharp who had once represented him. Lucas had burned through lawyers like matches, each one dropping his case as soon as they realized the extent of his deceit and the strength of my evidence. As the judge entered and took his seat, the room fell silent. The weight of this moment pressed down on me, but I refused to let it show. I had fought too hard and come too far to crumble now. The judge reviewed the final documents, his expression inscrutable as he flipped through the pages that held the culmination of my battle. After reviewing all the evidence and testimonies, the judge began, his voice echoing through the courtroom. I hereby grant the divorce and approve the settlement as agreed upon by both parties. A wave of relief washed over me as the gavel struck the sound block, the finality of the sound echoing through the room. It was over. After months of battling, I had finally won. Lucas signed the papers without a word, his face a mask of resignation. As he stood and walked out of the courtroom, he didn't even glance in my direction. It was a stark contrast to the man who had once commanded every room he entered, his arrogance and charm, now replaced with defeat. As I left the courthouse, the sun shining brightly overhead, I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't experienced in years. I was no longer tied to the past, no longer defined by the shadows of Lucas's betrayal. I was free to start anew, to build the life I truly desired. My first stop was my new home. It was everything I had ever wanted, modern yet warm, with high ceilings and floor-to-ceiling windows that let in every bit of morning light. I had bought it with the money from my half of Lucas's business, a symbol of my independence and success. Every time I walked through the grand entryway, I was reminded of how far I had come and the strength it had taken to get here. The house was a sanctuary, a place where I could heal and grow. I had filled it with things that brought me joy, art that spoke to my soul, books that inspired me, and mementos from adventures that reminded me of my own strength and resilience. It was a far cry from the cold, sterile environment of the home I had shared with Lucas, where every piece of decor had been chosen for its price tag rather than its meaning. Professionally, I was thriving. Without Lucas's constant belittling, I had poured my energy into my career. Clients flooded in, drawn to my reputation as a fierce and formidable lawyer. I was invited to speak at legal panels, offered high-profile cases, and before I knew it, I was leading my own division at the firm. The very public spectacle of my divorce had only fueled my determination, turning me into a symbol of resilience and empowerment. But it wasn't just my career that flourished. I found myself reconnecting with old friends and making new ones, surrounding myself with people who lifted me up and supported me. Mia, my best friend, was a constant presence in my life, her unwavering support a beacon of light in even the darkest moments. Together, we laughed, cried, and celebrated the victories, both big and small. One evening, as I sat on my balcony, sipping a glass of wine and watching the city skyline, I reflected on my journey. The pain of Lucas's betrayal had been immense, but it had also been a catalyst for growth. I had learned to stand on my own, to fight for what I deserved, and to never again diminish my worth for someone else's gain. I thought about the woman I had been at the start of this journey, broken, betrayed, and uncertain of her future. I had come so far since then, transforming into a stronger, more confident version of myself. The battle had been brutal, but it had also been a testament to my resilience and determination. As I looked out at the city, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. I had rebuilt my life from the ashes of my past, creating something even more beautiful and meaningful. I had learned the true value of self-worth, the importance of standing up for myself, and the power of starting anew. But my journey wasn't just about me. I found myself becoming an advocate for others who had experienced similar betrayals, using my story to inspire and empower them. I spoke at conferences, wrote articles, and even started a support group for women going through divorce. I was determined to turn my pain into a force for good, to help others find their own strength and resilience. And then there was the unexpected, a new love that entered my life when I least expected it. He was kind, supportive, and understood the journey I had been on. He saw my strength and my scars and loved me for all of it. Together, we built a relationship based on trust, respect, and a shared vision for the future. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the city, I raised my glass in a silent toast to the future. Whatever lay ahead, I was ready to face it with courage, determination, and an unwavering belief in myself. The battle was over, but my journey was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take me. In the end, I realized that the true triumph wasn't in the material gains or the professional success. It was in the personal growth, the rediscovery of my own strength, and the ability to love and be loved again. It was in the knowledge that I had faced the darkest moments of my life and emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before, and that I knew was a victory worth celebrating.